So a little bit about Gravity Jack. We've actually been in the AR space since 2009. We're definitely pioneers and have been around the block back when AWE was like a little tiny hallway. Not now we're at Santa Clara outgrowing this convention center actually. But being in the space this long and working with all kinds of different agencies, different platforms, customers wanting different solutions to their various problems, we've been exposed to these needs. And you know, I'm sure anyone in the industry knows object recognition, being able to understand without markers, and again, like you said, markerless world, is something that we've needed for a long time, wanted for a long time as well. But we've had this gold rush, just flush of funds going in with massive amounts of money being dumped into wearables. And I get it, you know, they're sexy, they're fun, they're tangible, but we really need to see that shift where it's the same, if not more, in the software aspect of things to really scale out AR as we know it. Juniper Research did a study saying they're anticipating AR and enterprise is going to be 2.4 billion in 2019, up from 247 million in 14. So we're looking at a tenfold increase specifically focused on enterprise, which is beautiful for us in the industry. We're seeing that happening. We're seeing it going forward. So really wanting that shift from a scalable perspective to happen on that software side of things. So a little bit, I mean, obviously we've all been on the show floor, so we're seeing a lot more than just this itty bitty handful of wearables. So it's huge, it's substantial. But the part that it feels, again, you know, going back on the software, that they're missing is really forward thinking the software stack that they're going to want to include on their wearables. So we can push it forward. It's like a Ballmer. Anybody who remembers Steve Ballmer on stage, or I'm not old enough to do that, but I've seen the videos where he's passionate and he's, you know, profusely sweating and he's got the whole like armpits nasty when he's raising his hands and he's yelling, developers, developers, over and over and over for 5 minutes straight. But that passion and that understanding still rings true with where we are with AR wearables and our industry now. So there's been a lot of, I'm not sitting back going like, nobody's solving these problems. That's not what I'm saying at all. There's been some really great traction, some really great companies that are targeting some of these issues. You know, we've got the smart instructions, the AR instructions aspects of things, being able to show our procedures and maintenance and repairs, and I mean, frankly, whatever it is that we're wanting, the digital content we're wanting to see. Scope AR is doing a beautiful job, is one of many doing a really great job in doing that. Then, you know, ThingWorx, a marker-based CV, it was when this was written, and of course with their announcement this week. They've done some great stuff with CAD, still needing that user alignment step on the, to get the object in screen. And then actually Gravity Jack has what was our first beta edition of Poindexter, and now announced this week as a Droid, which is true, real object detection and recognition in its full 6 degrees of freedom without needing the user alignment on that. 6 degrees of freedom meaning you've got the XYZ plane of the environment you're in, and then you have the XYZ axis of the object itself, the pitch, yaw, roll, so you can genuinely understand not just some good key points or, you know, leveraging some SLAM, but understanding the object. So that's kind of, we've got the wearables, we've got some tools in our tool chests as an industry. So this is what we need to do in a very simplified version of scaling this so that it can really expand long term and really affect not just the industry, but the world itself, right? You know, we can all collectively, I'm sure if we're sitting at this expo, understand the end game of where dads don't need to teach their daughters to change tires. There's going to be wearables for that, and the cloud can teach them how to do it. It's assembling furniture, repairing your own, you know, washers, dryers, etc. So I'm assuming we all know that's the end game and that's where it's going. But the here and now to get to that point really does start in enterprise, and it starts in industrial so that we reach that consumer goal. So again, with the HMDs, I would say top 3 problems: field of view being an issue, power. We need the horsepower behind what we need to see, and then content. A slew of brilliant people and a hell of a lot of money is going at problems 1 and 2. So I really wanted to talk about number 3 on the content front in order to scale for AR. So step 1 in tackling this problem is the training and capture phase, right? So current object capture is not where it's needed for long term. We've got I was in a couple of meetings and somebody said, anything manufactured in the last 10, 15, 20 years has a 3D model. This isn't like something that most of the time we're gonna have to go create. Again, 9 times out of 10, it's already gonna be there. So we need to leverage what content we've got out there specifically for these objects, machineries, equipment, et cetera, that we're gonna be wanting to augment and scale. So really leveraging the content that already exists is gonna be huge. So be that 3D models, or in some cases, if for some reason it doesn't need to be rigged and animated, we can do user-generated videos, structure for motion capture, things like that. But it needs to be a simplified training and capture step to really flesh it out and roll it out long term. So the second step of the simplified scalability version is recognition of all things. And that goes back to the biggest problem in AR as we shift forward. So markers have been great. Image recognition has been wonderful. It's been extremely, we all need these stepstones. So I don't want to feel like I'm standing up here knocking anything, because everything has its place in AR and what we're all collectively trying to push forward here. But you can't put a marker on a GE turbine. In the field, it's not going to be all pretty and shiny like that. It's going to be a mess, right? We just can't. That's not a long-term solve to a massive issue that we have in our industry. So by having that 6 degrees of freedom, you're not just using a classifier or, again, edge detection. So as soon as that object or that equipment is shifted and moved, you lose those edges, and now it doesn't know what it's seeing. So we really need to be able to recognize the objects, the machinery, the equipment that we're wanting to augment. That's absolutely, I'd give it 10 steps if we needed to, but to have that scalability that we all need and want. So step 3, this one's a little bit of a hypocrite here because it says kill the agency model. So it contradicts the up there screaming and yelling developers. What I very, very specifically mean here is with regards to the creation of the procedures and the steps that the content is going to go into for the machinery and the equipment. So we need one spot where the subject matter experts can go in. They can walk through the steps, they can walk through whatever content they're needing to do and display in a very simplified version. Eventually, for true scalability, it needs to be a point where it's so flawless and it's so seamless. Your mom, my mom, your mom can get in there and understand what they're trying to do, the steps they're trying to create for the digital content that they need people to consume. So I don't mean kill, we need developers for all the integration, for all the different applications, et cetera, et cetera. This is very, very much just in regards to the subject matter experts, the SMEs going in and defining the profile for the procedures on the objects that they're wanting to do. So I just wanted to make sure I'm not contradicting there. The fourth one, which again, some of these for us in the industry feel like a no-brainer, but it's standardization. We need to have a single, or not single, but we don't need to be infighting so much long-term. I'm not saying right now, but as we progress through this scaling of AR with having the metadata associated with the objects and the procedure and the content and the info that's then ingested back, that standardization is something that we all can, as developers or as companies in the industry, go to for really truly rolling it out on a big scale. So we want to drive our industry. We want to drive AR in enterprise and in industrial. And in order to do that, we've really got to find out what that sweet spot on standardizing that model looks like. So we've gone through the HMDs, where they're at now. Again, tons and tons of money going into those, which is great. We want to focus on that content creation. We want to be up here screaming for developers and the HMDs to be wanting to support the developers and the apps and the applications of where we're going with this. To recap in a simple kind of pipeline, if you will, of the rollout and scalability of AR in our industry and in collectively in enterprise. We need to simplify the capture model, or the capture pipeline rather, utilizing and really, really leveraging the existing content that's out there. I can't emphasize that enough, that people are overthinking it and forgetting all of the content that we have. Utilize that content, get it into formats that are simply and easily digested. And again, if it's user-generated video structure for motion for those use cases that don't necessarily need to be rigged and animated, it's just an easy part of the capture process. So we've captured that 3D object or loaded in that model that we've already got existing of these various pieces of equipment. We're going to put them into that object trainer to then understand it. We've got the SME, the subject matter expert, building the AR content, right? So that goes back into the standardization, that simple version that mom can go in and put in whatever procedure they want on that piece of equipment to really roll it out. So that's part of the create. We're understanding the object that's already been loaded in. Then the SME is going in to build that robust content that we later need to digest. And then it needs to, in order for a scalable solution to really work, spit it out in a standard format that the end clients, in our cases the wearables, can truly spit out quickly and understand. So I'm getting the minute countdown here. Passionately, fervently believe that scalability in industry and enterprise is going to be the roadmap to ultimate consumer adoption and really rolling it out in our consumer lives in its entirety. But we need to simplify and streamline this in such a way that truly the end game is we've done this in such a clean fashion that robots are ultimately replacing the humans, taking out our error point because we've established these protocols in such a seamless fashion that the scalability of AR has really been reached at that point. There we go. Thank you guys very much. All right, I can't see very well, but are there any questions at all on any of that fun stuff? I feel like the middleman, like doing the dance to divide time. None thus far.
Is there any current application that helps out with the content provisioning of 3D objects right now?
With the content what? What was that?
Providing content for 3D objects right now out there in the market?
I think it would depend on what facet you're describing. I mean, the content and understanding, at this point, understanding the object and then creating the content are two separate things. So if you take something like Scope AR, where they create really great content for these pieces of equipment or whatever the use case might be, and then the marriage with the company, perhaps it's Gravity Jack's adroit that recognizes, understands the object. So then it actually becomes more of a cohesive relationship instead of separate. So Scope AR, let's say they author the content for the GE turbine that was up there. Adroit, Gravity Jack could recognize the turbine, and rather than deliver the kind of like image recognition, rather than deliver that back, you would deliver the 6 degrees of freedom to Scope AR or any other platform that wants to do the authoring content. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I'm talking more about the consumer codes, like not necessarily motors and things that are Is there any other app out there that is currently doing that kind of thing, like giving a tool for users to provide augmented reality content?
Not with objects, no. There's a lot of others with image or some key point, but nothing with objects. Yeah.
When you talk about
To understand the object, yes. So where you load the model into the object trainer, it uses machine and deep learning to understand the object, correct? Spitting back the 6 degrees of freedom that then, that authoring content that the subject matter expert creates can then be applied to the object itself.
And now my question similar to this, is there an application or a SDK or something that you can use to learn objects from the 3D objects?
So none out there thus far. Adroit's SDK is planned on being released at very, very minimal MVP by end of year. So at this point, it's still pilot executions of very controlled customers and clients and dialing in the use cases that they need and want to leverage the tech. But it's coming. It's coming. All right. Thanks, guys.